Hi again, everyone. Gary Digital Williams here on the Boxing on Beltway Podcast Network. Boxing on Beltway Podcast Network can be heard, as always, on Spreaker, Stitcher, iHeartRadio. We're on Podcast Addict. We're on Spotify. We're on Google Podcasts, and we're on TuneIn. You can hear us on YouTube as well as on Twitter. My Twitter is Digital25. That's my handle on Twitter. And also, you can hear us on the Boxing on Beltway Podcast Network page on Facebook. So you can hear us in many different locations in the podcast world. This week's shorter podcast this week, we're going to talk about the big matchup that's scheduled as we record this for tomorrow, Saturday, excuse me, involving Kobe the Soldier Breedy. He has a big bout coming up this coming Saturday, September 19th. Also want to talk about the fall of truly one of the more talented boxers to come out of the Beltway, but someone who just could not, for lack of a better term, escape his demons, I guess. I don't know. It was something that has been happening. You know, how should I put this? His loyalty to the business was always in question. And I think his lack of loyalty, in this case, maybe have cost him this time. And then we're going to take a look at one of the really great contenders in the Beltway boxing world over the years, a man known as the Council of War. We're going to talk about him and go over his career on our show this week. Boxing on Beltway Podcast Network brought to you as always by Real Time Pain Relief. From boxers to ballerinas, for shoulder pain and muscle strain, everything between. Boxing Along the Beltway recommends Real Time Pain Relief, the natural, plant-based, safe, fast, and effective ointment. You go to freepainoffer.com, buy $10 worth of real-time pain relief. You get a free $10 tube of real-time pain relief, the official pain relief endorsed now by two-time heavyweight champion Big George Foreman. So try George Foreman's knockout formula of real-time pain relief. Rub it on, the pain is gone in real time. And by DeborahSpears.com. She has great weight loss tips, great jewelry, and great training methods, all at Deborah, Debra Spears.com. Of course, Kobe Breedy out of Hyattsville, Maryland, by way of Barbados. His big bout comes up on Saturday, September 19th, when he takes on number one contender in the WBC Featherweight Championship rankings, and also a man who just had a world title shot. His name, Tutskot Big King Tug Nyambayar of Los Angeles, California, by way of Mongolia. And this will be a featherweight unification bout, WBC featherweight unification bout, coming up this coming Saturday, September 19th, at Mohegan Sun Casino in Uncasville, Connecticut. This will be the second contest on a triple header card that'll be on Showtime beginning at 9 p.m. Now, both men weighed in, as we record this today, both weighed in at 125 and 1/2 pounds. So there's no weight differential there. No question about that. And both men were very confident going into this bout. Breedy said, you know, this is a bout that really came Breedy's way within the last couple of weeks. Now, he had a bout scheduled for later on in September, but this bout came, he had to take it. No question about that. And so he said, quote, "I'm never under pressure because I know what I'm doing this for. I'm doing this for my people back home in Barbados." And actually, Barbados has been in the news the last couple of weeks because they are planning to announce their independence from the Queen. They're already an independent nation, but the Queen is still sort of a sovereign ruler. But that may change. So that's something going on right now. So a lot of things are going on Breedy's native island. He also says, quote, "I'm doing it for my family, my wife, and everybody who supports me. I'm going to show everyone who Soldier Breedy is." And he goes on to say he's not worried about how he fought against Gary Russell Jr. That was a good win for Gary. Tug's a good fighter. He's accomplished a lot, but he hasn't fought a soldier yet. And Saturday night he's going to be facing something different. Now, what I didn't know until very recent, and this is actually thanks to my partner Juan Marshall, who has an outstanding interview with Kobe Breedy on his YouTube, Pro Am Fight Talk YouTube page. Outstanding interview with him. Breedy and his coach his trainer Floyd Seymour, have joined up with Barry Hunter and the Headbangers. So they'll be in Breedy's corner coming up on Saturday. And that makes things very interesting. And it could be the reason why Breedy, as great as he's been, 15-0, 5 KOs, he has improved somewhat. Not to say that Floyd Seymour was not a great trainer. He is, no question about it. But really, Headbangers started working with him around the time of his last bout, which was a knockout win, and he hadn't had many of those, but he looked very strong in that bout. And he actually was sparring with Roche Warren, who was under the Headbangers tutelage, former world champion there. So it's very interesting to see that he's come about, and that was a good move by Breedy and Seymour to join forces with the Headbangers. So we'll see. Meanwhile, Nyambayar, who's 11-1, 9 KOs, he's coming off that title loss to Gary Russell Jr. His last bout back in February. Nyambayar told reporters that he was not in 100% for that bout. He said, quote, "It wasn't my night against Gary Russell Jr., but now I'm a better fighter. I was waiting too much against Russell. Let him control the fight. I have to be in control of the fight from beginning to the end." And he had a bit of an ankle sprain, Nyambayar told reporters. And he wasn't able to use movement as much as I wanted. It's a mild injury that caused me to have a lot less running and training. Just wasn't the best King Tug. He would happily rematch Gary Russell Jr. That would be sort of the stakes if whoever wins this bout coming up. I'd love to fight him again because I think it would end differently. That's what he's saying. So we'll see what happens with this bout coming up on Saturday, September 19th, part of a triple header on Showtime. Will be the second bout on the triple header. First bout will be Jerron Boots Ennis, a guy who's been well known. He's out of Philadelphia, of course, a big favorite here in the Beltway. He's fought here a couple of times, fought very, very well. He's fighting a guy, Juan Carlos Abreu, who actually came in overweight for his bout. So bout's still going to happen, but Abreu had to lose almost 2.5, almost 3 pounds there. And then the main event is going to be Erickson Lubin taking on Terrell Gausha. So it's a pretty good card of boxing coming up on Saturday, September 19th. Hegan & Son Casino in Inclettsville, Connecticut. It'll get underway at 9 p.m. And Breedy and Nyambayar will be the second bout coming up on that telecast. Make sure you watch that there on Showtime. Now, coming up, we talk about this person who, for years, and I'll say for years, he has been criticized for not giving everything he could to this business. And as you said so many times over the years, you can't play boxing. This is a business, and especially at the pro level. It's not a game, no question about that. And even when he was an amateur, there were questions about his complete loyalty and his willingness to give everything he could to the sport of boxing. Talk about Dominic Wade, the middleweight out of Largo, Maryland, former middleweight title world challenger. Now, BoxingScene.com reported this week that Wade is being held without bail in the Charles County, Maryland Detention Center on 3 charges of sexual misconduct, the most serious being rape in the 2nd degree. Now, if convicted, Wade could serve a maximum of 20 years in prison. Now, this is according to the report by BoxingScene.com, good buddy of mine, Jake Donovan. Jake Donovan says the offense in question took place on July 23rd, according to arrest records and a company court report. Wade allegedly came into contact with the victim, whose identity has been withheld in compliance with rape shield law, at which point he engaged in the alleged attack. The arrest warrant was issued by the Charles County Sheriff's Department on August 28th, was ultimately served to Wade on September the 8th, after which he was placed under arrest. Hearing was held in Charles County District Court on September 9th, with a motion from the Charles County State Attorney's Office granted and to hold Wade without bail. Now, Charles County, by the way, is in southern part of Maryland. So preliminary hearings will be scheduled for October 6th at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time in Charles County District Court. So, Wade, by the way, is also charged with 2nd-degree sexual assault and 4th-degree sexual offense, both of which are misdemeanors. The sexual assault in the 2nd degree carries a maximum penalty of up to 10 years in prison and a $2,500 fine. Now, going back to Wade's amateur days, there's always been a question when he gave his all to the sport. I'll never forget, there was an article in the Washington Post as we were heading toward the Olympics. I believe it was in 2000, probably going into the 2008 Olympics in Beijing. Whether or not Wade gave it all, and he was training with Adrian Davis at the time, and that was always the question that that they gave to Dominic Wade. And as he got into the pros, I kind of wondered at times whether or not he would rise above that as a pro. And by the time he got to his biggest bout in his career, back in April of 2016, we thought he'd overcome that. Now, of course, April 2016 was when he had the world title bid against Gennady Golovkin in Inglewood, California at the Forum. And Wade lost by second round knockout. We understand that. But I had arguments, and actually sometimes to this day, I have arguments with people who don't believe that that Wade should have taken that bout. I contend that he should have taken that bout. He needed to take that bout. Because, again, the other name for this business is prize fighting. And that was a big prize. And it came around because the original number one contender, Toronto Johnson, got injured. Billy Joe Saunders didn't want the bout. And so it fell into the lap of Dominic Wade. And you got to take something like that. You know, even if you are overmatched, you have to take something like that. That's like saying Breedy, even after 2 weeks' notice, should not take this bout against Tuksat Nyambayar. He had to take this bout. This is the biggest moment for his career. Has to take the bout. Same thing with Wade. He had to take that bout with Gennady Golovkin. And so he did. He lost in the second round. Now, the weird thing about that is that bout may not have happened had the promoters for the bout known about Wade being out on bail and awaiting sentencing for a domestic violence charge that stemmed from an incident in December 2015 involving the mother of Wade's child. The mother's niece witnessed the attack and was struck by Wade, and she lost a tooth. Wade pled guilty to one count of assault, which his punishment was reduced to probation and mandatory anger management classics. Now, details of the case were not revealed until after the Golovkin bout in June of 2016. Now, Wade spent a long time out of the ring after the Golovkin fight. He only fought twice after that. The last bout was in February of 2019, where he knocked out Josue Obando in the fifth round in Charlotte, North Carolina. That brought his record up to 20-1 with 14 knockouts. But barring a miracle, it looks like we may never see Dominic Wade in a boxing ring again. It's just sad. I mean, this guy has so much talent, and he just in many ways just squandered it, seems. So we'll see what happens come October. Keep you posted on how the hearing comes out and what happens after that. But right now, Dominic Wade, what left of his boxing career is totally on hold because he is being held without bail in the Charles County, Maryland Detention Center in Southern Maryland. 3 charges of sexual misconduct, the most serious being rape in the second degree. Very, very sad. No question about that. Let's go to happy news and talk about another middleweight from the Beltway boxing past who truly was an outstanding contender. No question about that. Came out of Lanham, Maryland, and I followed him throughout my boxing spotlight days and consider him a very good friend personally. We do share something in common. We'll talk about that in a moment, but guy was an outstanding boxer. His name, the Council of War, Andrew Council. Oh, what a great boxer he was. Came out of Lanham, Maryland, or Washington, D.C. And I think one of those guys that if, other middleweight champions weren't in front of him, he would have had a middleweight title, a world title somewhere along the line. No question about that. But things just didn't turn out for whatever reason, but still had a wonderful career. That career started on November 14th, 1990 in LaFontaine Blue in Glen Burnie, Maryland. He scored a first-round knockout in a scheduled 6-round bout. His pro debut was a scheduled 6-rounder against Michael Himbad Duncan. And he scored a first-round knockout there. He would fight on January 16, 1991 at the LaFontaine Blue in Lanham, Maryland, and he scored a third-round knockout there. He would go on and fight a number of times here in the Beltway area. He'd take on Robert Boo Boo Sawyer. Would win a 6-round unanimous decision against Robert Boo Boo Sawyer in February 1991. And he would go on throughout his career, win a big win in Alexandria over Kevin Tillman, who was 8-1 at the time, 6-round split decision in November of 1991. I tell you, Kevin Tillman must have thought he had been snake bitten in this area because he lost some very tough decisions here in the Beltway over the years. And one day we'll look at that. He would move out to and expand his territory throughout his career, fight a few times in Atlantic City and the Meadowlands Arena, East Rutherford, New Jersey. He'd win a 6-round split decision over Mike Williams on April 22nd, 1992. He'd defeat Lonnie Davis in May of 1992 at Harrah's in Atlantic City. And that's where he would stay for a while. He won a big bout over Sam Carter, 2nd-round knockout, TKO in August of 1993 in Prince George's County Community College in Largo, Maryland. And then the first time I remember him being on Boxing Spotlight was on February 17th, 1994 on my television show, taking on Bernard Preacher Man Grant. That was at the Showplace Arena up in Marlboro, Maryland. He scored a 3rd-round TKO in that bout. And 4 fights later, 2 of them against Aaron McLaurin, he'd win 2 very tough decisions. 8-round bout against McLaurin on May 11, 1994 at the ABC Auditorium, which is a different place than the ABC Sports Complex. The ABC Auditorium was a former bingo hall in Annandale, Virginia. Then they rematch at Martin's West in Woodlawn, Maryland. We have this bout on Boxing Spotlight. And Counsel would win an 8-round split decision on June 9th, 1994. He'd get a first hiccup in his career when he had a draw against Tony Marshall on July 1st, 1994 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 10-round draw in that bout. But that would lead to, at that point, the biggest bout of his career. He'd take on another Beltway boxer by the name of Keith Holmes on September 23rd, 1994, the Showplace Arena up in Marlboro, Maryland. Nationally televised bout on ESPN, the main event. And I've told this from the Keith Holmes side because Keith Holmes, that was the night that Keith Holmes had to go to jail after that bout because he had been accused of murder, first-degree murder. He was exonerated from that. And that happened right before the bout. When he was able to take the bout, he was arrested soon after the bout. Now, the bout was also notable because a lot of people thought Andrew Counsel would have won the bout had he not been penalized 3 times for low blows. Now, one thing about Andrew Counsel, he was one of the fiercest body punchers I've ever seen in this area, in history. And it cost him a little bit because Chris Wallinson thought they went low. Now, the funny thing about that was Chris Wallinson, after that bout, I don't believe never ever did another boxing card in Maryland. He never refereed another boxing bout in Maryland after that. And I remember going back into the dressing room after the fight and talking to Andrew Counsel's trainer, the late, wonderful Bernard Boogaloo Roach. And I remember he wasn't angry. He was upset. But he was very philosophical about what happened with Counsel that night. And it was very, very interesting to hear. He said he no longer wanted to leave the judging to the bout to the judges after that. So that's where that works. So it was a tough loss for Andrew Counsel that night, and actually it will propel Keith Holmes eventually to a world title. Counsel bounced back from that bout on January 11, 1995, with a 10-round unanimous decision over Anthony Ivory as at Martin's West in Woodlawn, Maryland. He would defeat Jermaine Dixon in D.C. in August of 1995, 3rd-round knockout there. And then on September 30th, 1995, Counsel would score his biggest win of his career. And I'll never forget where I was that night watching this bout. It was on USA Network, Tuesday Night Fights. from Bally's Park Place Hotel Casino in Atlantic City. And Andrew Council will be on Tuesday Night Fights in a bout against former world champion, future Hall of Famer, James Buddy McGirt. Now, remember, I was over my friend Rudy Childs, who was the producer of boxing, one of the producers of Boxing Spotlight, executive producer of Boxing Spotlight, and along with myself and my family, my wife, my brother-in-law. And it was phenomenal to see Council in that fight. He was on his game like I had never seen before. And he would go on to knock out Buddy McGirt in the 9th round of that bout on September 30th, 1995. I remember we called Andrew Council after that bout to congratulate him. I never think we got his phone number, and we called him that night to congratulate him after the fight. It was tremendous to see. Oh, it's really one of the highlights of my career, in all honesty, because if you ever watched that fight, Council was totally on his game that night. And it put him back into championship contention. Now, Buddy McGirt was not completely the same Buddy McGirt that had won world title, but he was still a very prominent foe, and that was a huge win for Andrew Council. So, really, really great win for Andrew Council that night. He won 2 more bouts. He beat Anthony Bryant in November of 1995 at the Convention Center, first round knockout there. And another first round knockout over Eric Reinhardt on December 7th, 1995 at the Showplace Arena in Marlboro, Maryland. That would lead to a bout for the NABF Super Welterweight title. By that time, he was moved into the Super Welterweight division. So he wasn't middleweight at that time. And he'll take on a guy who's originally from D.C., but called Pensacola, Florida, his home. And his name was Ronald Winky Wright, Hall of Fame in his own right. And where Council looked very, very good against Buddy McGirt, he did not look his best against Winky Wright at the Scope Arena in Norfolk, Virginia. And Wright would totally dominate Council that night and go on to win a 12-round unanimous decision. Judges had about 118, 109, 116, 111, 116, 112. And I don't even think it was that close, to be perfectly honest with you. I think really Council really had no shot against Winky Wright that night. So really tough bout there. So that would set him back a little bit. He would come back and knock out Mark Finesse Mahogany Buchanan out of North Carolina on August 21st, 1996. Score a 3rd round TKO there. Come back and knock out Alan Boogaloo Watts on October 19, 1996. I do remember there was a lot of talk about this bout. I mean, that bout was very interesting because there was a lot of talking back and forth between the two, if I remember correctly. And Council just came out and just dominated Watts and won the bout in the first round. So that was interesting there. He'd come back and he would lose a 12-round unanimous decision to Robert Allen, another prominent middleweight contender, on April 19th, 1997 in Shreveport, Louisiana. But he was able to bounce back and get another title shot, a world title, his first world title shot. And that would be against Bernard Hopkins at the Showplace Arena in Marlboro, Maryland. Now, a lot of people don't realize that Bernard Hopkins almost called D.C., the Beltway area, his second home. Because he would win titles here. He would defend titles here. He won his first title at the Beltway Brawl at the USA Arena. And he would defend his title a few times here in Washington, D.C. He loved fighting here. And he would fight Andrew Council and virtually dominate him that night. And win the bout by a well-known unanimous decision. Paul Ortiz, two local boxers were judges on local judges were judges on this bout. Paul Ortiz, he scored the bout for Holmes 118-106, and also Bill Holmes, another local judge at the time, 118-106 both ways, and one judge had Ernie Green had a 119-105. So again, very, very dominant performance by Bernard Hopkins that night. He would come back. He win a 10-round decision over Benji Singleton, another prominent journeyman out of North Carolina. He would take on Magic Michael Ward of D.C., late Michael Ward, and won a 10-round unanimous decision there in February of 1999, National Guard Army, Pikesville, Maryland. He'd knock out Floyd Williams in the second round in August of 1999 in Tunica, Mississippi. Second round knockout there. And then he'd have his last two bouts. Last two bouts were against. He'd have a rematch against Keith Holmes in his career, and Keith Holmes would win by unanimous decision. An easier bout for Keith Holmes. That was in 1999. That was not during Triple Jeopardy. That was the next card, August of 1999 against Keith Holmes. August 24th, 1999. Against Keith Holmes, and who would lose a unanimous decision there. And then come back. His last two bouts were in 2003 against King James McAllister, at the Lincoln Theater, and also at in Grand Rapids, Michigan, on October 31st, 2003. He would lose a 10-round split decision to Troy Rowland. And that was his career. Andrew Council had a final career of 31 wins, 8 losses, and 3 draws, with 20 knockouts to his credit. Outstanding boxer, no question about that. Now becoming an outstanding master trainer. He owns a Triple Threat Gym in Lanham, Maryland. You can see him every now and again on Facebook. He's training boxers in the shadows of FedEx Field. And what Andrew Council and I have in common is that we both went into the Washington, D.C. Boxing Hall of Fame the very same year, 2009. Unfortunately, Council could not be there. I believe he had a boxer who was fighting that night. He could not make the ceremony, but he was in there along with myself to fight Dr. Jerome Spears and also Israel Gerger and a few other people as well. But we went into the Hall of Fame that very same year, and I was so proud to be a part of that class. No question about that, in 2009. So that is the career of Andrew Council of War. Council, outstanding junior middleweight and middleweight, who now a very successful trainer here in the Beltway region. So that's my tribute to Andrew Council. Now, before we go, we just heard, as I went on the air tonight, the very sad news about Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She passed away as we record this today at the age of 87. She fought very hard. She was a Supreme Court Justice for 27 years and was involved in some very landmark decisions, and was one of the most prominent judges on the Supreme Court. And she had numerous illnesses, but she always seemed to fight back, and always seemed to be able. And this one just got to be too much for her. And she passed away at the age of 87. And she will now be laid to rest on what is called Supreme Court Justice Hill at Arlington National Cemetery. Her husband is there. And she'll join such people as Thurgood Marshall, Oliver Wendell Holmes, and many others Supreme Court justices who are laid to rest in one section of Arlington National Cemetery as you head toward the Kennedy Memorial, the President Kennedy Memorial there. So deepest condolences to Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Some people called her the notorious RBG. She was a fighter, no question about that, and did some outstanding work while being on the Supreme Court. So deepest condolences to Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. That'll do it for another edition of Beltway Boxing, the Boxing on Beltway Podcast Network. As always, brought to you by Real Time Pain Relief. You go to freepainoffer.com. Buy $10 worth of Real Time Pain Relief. You get a free $10 tube of Real Time Pain Relief, the official pain relief now endorsed by two-time heavyweight champion Big George Foreman now. So go ahead and try his knockout formula for Real Time Pain Relief. Rub it on. The pain is gone in real time. And by DeborahSpears.com. She has great weight loss tips, great jewelry, great training methods at Deborah, Debra Spears.com. I'm Gary Digital Williams. Thank you so much for joining us. And always remember to keep supporting the best boxing in the world, the boxing along the Beltway. Thanks for listening. Take care.